Welcome to Great SA, TPR's event series that takes a look at the history, the events, and the people who help make San Antonio a great place. Now, today is the second in our series inspired by San Antonio's designation as a creative city of gastronomy by UNESCO in 2017 and focused on culinary heritage in South Texas. Today's event is a collaboration with the City San Antonio World Heritage Office and also made possible by a sponsorship from Frost and HEB. And a very special thanks to Backwoods Barbecue for popping up with some delicious barbecue. Let's give all of our sponsors and Backwoods a hand. Thank you. So let's introduce our panelists. I'm going to introduce them and let them all tell you a little about themselves. So down on the far end is Ernest Cervantes with the Burnt Bean Company. Welcome, Ernest, and thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Pretty much it. My name is Ernest Cervantes. I'm one of the co-owners of Burnt Bean Company here in Seguin, Texas. We've been around for about 4 years. With COVID, it'd be 5, but we all know how that went. But other than that, we're just a barbecue joint downtown Seguin, Texas, and we love to throw barbecue down.
Thanks, Ernest. Next to Ernest is Sean Wynn with Curry Boys Barbecue and the Pinch Boil House. Welcome, Sean, and tell us a little about yourself.
Thanks for having me here. Yeah, Sean Wynn. If I'm not spending time at the restaurants, which I do so lovingly, not because I'm forced to, you can also catch me like playing some basketball around town. I love basketball a lot. So, but yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with some legends in the game.
Thank you, Sean. Adrian Davila with Davila's Barbecue. Tell us a little about yourself.
Thank you very much, and thank you guys for having me. I'm Adrian Davila. Along with my father, who will be here very soon, we operate Davila's Barbecue since 1959, and by the grace of God in our community, we've been around 65 years this year, so we're just proud to just light the fire every day. And so that's just what we do. We cook every day. We light the fire.
Thank you, Adrian. And finally, seated to my left here, revered restaurant critic from the Express News, Mike Sutter.
I think we have different definitions of the word revered, but I think some of those we can't say on the radio. But I'm pleased to be here. I'm the one who doesn't belong up here on this group because my job is usually to talk about these guys. But when it comes to Texas barbecue, there's so much to talk about, and they are indispensable parts of that conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's have one more hand for our panelist. We're in the presence of greatness this evening when it comes to barbecue. Let's start back down at the end with Ernest. Ernest, it's a great story, I think, about how you came up with the name Burnt Bean. Can you share that story with us?
Yeah, like I tell everybody, I was a backyard warrior. I guess we all started there, and my neighbor's like, dude, you got some really good barbecue. I'm going to enter you in a cook-off. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And he's like, you're going to cook brisket, ribs, chicken, and beans. And I'm like, all right, cool. And as an executive chef, you don't take weekends off unless someone's dead or someone really close to you is getting married because your team's going to really rib you. And I had a couple of people like, chef, why are you taking the weekend off? I'm like, well, I'm going to go do this cook-off. What are you going to do? And brisket, ribs, chicken, and beans. And they're like, knowing you probably don't even know how to cook beans. You're going to probably burn them. And I was like, I kind of like that. I didn't have a cookie name, so the Burnt Bean and then the Burnt Bean Company and the rest is history. That was 14 years ago. So that's our claim to fame is we started off on the dark side. So we were a competition barbecue team, and we worked our way up and pretty much won everything you could win in the competition side. So came to the other side and said, let's start winning on the other side. So that's how we came up with the Burnt Bean name.
Now, this is something that I've kind of wondered about. I know that I'm kind of familiar with chili cook-offs and competitions, and you started out in barbecue competition. So tell us, what is the real difference between competition barbecue and something that you would get in a restaurant? Or is there any difference?
It's day and night. Everybody says, what have you, incorporated with a competition into your menu at the restaurant? And I say, I put everything I learned in competition and I put it in my pocket because you can't use that. I can compare it to this. And of course, me being a chef, we got to compare it to food. Competition barbecue is that one bite rich cheesecake, chocolate cheesecake. Restaurant barbecue is a bag of Oreos. You know what I mean? You can only get one bite of a cheesecake, and that's all you get in competition barbecue because that's all the judges get. My goal is to make you want to eat lots of Oreos, and that's what the difference is that it's more rich. We used to use Wagyus. We used to use high-end, Compart type of ribs and all of these injections and phosphates and like 100 sauces and 100 rubs because we had to like put all our eggs in one basket when it came to competition barbecue. You come to the other side in the restaurant industry, it's more simplistic. It's more of a craft. And you want to make non-offending barbecues. That's what we make. We want to, my demographics of who I serve, I want to make sure we serve from the 2-year-olds to the 95s and everybody in between. So that doesn't, it's not over smoked. It's not too spicy. It's just really good middle of the road barbecue.
You ranked as the 4th best barbecue joint in the state by Texas Monthly and earned a 2023 James Beard Award finalist nomination in the category of Best Chef for Texas, and your business partner, David Kirkland. What is it that makes the burnt bean different?
The burnt bean, my whole philosophy just like the name, the burnt bean, think about it. If you close your eyes, what's the first thing that you think of? You probably think of some kind of like espresso coffee shop. I remember when we said coming soon, we covered up the walls. We said coming soon, burnt bean company. Had more espresso and cappuccino salesmen knocking on our door. And I'm like, I'm a barbecue joint. They're like, you're a what? I'm like, I'm a barbecue joint. They're like, why would you name it that? The burnt bean has always been unique since day one, since its infancy from competition barbecue to my whole vision of what barbecue should be in the new era. I wanted to keep the idealistics of what true Texas barbecue is, but yet branch out and be creative with everything else. And that's what we're doing at the Burnt Bean Company. I wanted to change the perception of barbecue just being a blue-collar lunch meal to an epic experience that you can get that we can compete with any other kind of restaurant there is. And that's what we're doing at the Burnt Bean. The diversity of our menu as well as what we come up with seasonal and what runs. We do different kinds of proteins as well as our sides. I think everybody judges a restaurant or a barbecue joint with just brisket. No, I think, and they think, sides are an afterthought. No, we go from the sides to desserts and to the proteins, and that's what makes us different.
Thank you. Sean Wynn, first of all, I don't know if you've been to his restaurant or restaurants, but I understand that they're very pink, and I do want you to notice the color of Sean's socks this evening. That is a fashion statement right there. Sean, tell us about the genesis of the idea of mixing Asian taste with traditional barbecue.
Yeah, it's like, for me, it's something I just always grew up. That was just my experience as being an Asian American who grew up in Texas. As many days as I would be eating Chinese food that my parents made, I'd be secretly craving barbecue or burgers or tacos or whatever on the side. And so whenever we had an opportunity to make or to even come up with the idea of Curry Boys, it was something that we wanted to feel was authentic to our experience. And so when we had a chance during the pandemic to throw a little pop-up in a parking lot essentially and sell some barbecue with some Thai curry, it was something that just made sense to us. There was a little bit of inspiration from a restaurant out in Portland called Eam, and he's a phenomenal Thai chef. But on the menu, there's one dish of a jungle curry and a brisket burnt ends, and we had that one time, and I was like, oh man, if we made a whole menu based around this idea with just really, really awesome smoked proteins, like that would be, 7-year-old me would be kicking and screaming with joy, So that's kind of what I wanted to bring, yeah.
Now, beyond a rub that's made out of salt and pepper, let's talk about what are some of the key Asian spices that you incorporate into your dishes.
Yeah, I mean they're mostly Southeast Asian, in particular Thai and Vietnamese. So any of the fresh, kind of bright aromatics that you'd find, whether they be Thai basil, we also use a lot of cilantro, galangal, lemongrass, lots of garlic. These are kind of key components that you'll find in a lot of Thai curries, Vietnamese curries, just Thai cuisine in general. That I think is a huge component in what we do, whether it's something a glaze on the rib or just what we put in the curry. So those are definitely things we want to stay true to for sure.
What's your most popular dish there at Curry Boys?
I think it varies. I would say the most popular in the sense that it fits kind of Texas is the brisket smoke show because of what we talk about. Like people think about brisket as
It's good.
It's
It's really good. Like really, really good.
They're being very nice. But I think that's probably the most popular. But my personal favorite is we were just talking about this. Is we have this like amalgamation of an idea of it's a curry queso hot dog. So it's like a smoked link with curry queso, cilantro, onions, fried shallots, and yeah, I don't know. Is it sacrilegious? I don't know. It's good.
Thanks. Let's move on to Adrian Davila. And I didn't mention earlier that Adrian is also author of a book called Cowboy Barbecue, Fire and Smoke from the Original Texas Vaqueros. So I encourage everyone to grab that book if you're interested in barbecue. And you started, your family that is, started the business way back when, back in 1959. And we were talking the other day on the phone about how some of the barbecue dishes back in the early days were actually things that the cooks were making for the back of the house. Tell me more about those kind of dishes.
Yeah, so I think part of what you'll see everyday menus nowadays. Let's start with a taco. You can see a brisket taco on Taco Cabana's menu, But back in the day, that was what we now call a family meal in the back, because in the front it was all about the butcher block barbecue. The links, the ribs, and like you would typically know in like Luling and Lockhart and those styles, it was slices of bread and pickles and onions. Well, my grandfather and my father and those cooks, and my great uncle was also a butcher. Well, they were making the tripas and the mollejas and the tacos and eating them with salsa and cooking it. The big old head wrapped in foil in the potato burlap sack that scared the heck out of my sister, But they were utilizing what was now is nose to tail, right? Because those things weren't necessarily served in a barbecue restaurant. Those things were held for Mexican restaurants. But we were wrapping a tortilla around everything and putting salsa around everything since way back when. But then it, per se, moved to the front of the house on those menus. So that's a big transition that's kind of been an evolution of today's barbecue.
There are some people who say that their rub is just salt and pepper, and I don't believe them because everybody's got to sneak a little something in besides the salt and pepper, right? You sell your own rub. What's your rub philosophy?
Stick to what my grandpa made. We use his recipe to this day, and it's a tried and true recipe. Obviously, after all of these years, we use it on all of our proteins. So we will be a little heavier or less on the pork and add pepper, but beyond that, we use it for all of our proteins, and it is salt, pepper, and cayenne, which we don't know why Grandpa, added it, but obviously he wanted a little spice in his life, and they were going towards that little bit of picante because it gives our chicken and our brisket just a little bit of zing, and not too deep, but. Why he ever did that, I don't know. But those were, I guess, again, those flavor profiles that we were looking for, that he sought after, that just worked. And we've continued, and that's what our thing is, continue to stick to the tradition, the things that work.
Something that we talked about on the phone the other day, we were speaking about sausage. Now, when you go to your typical barbecue joint that has sausage. I would say, by and large, that sausage does not come from that place. It's brought in from elsewhere. But Davila's, the sausage is king there, right? I mean, it's a big deal and always has been, right?
I would say sausage would be our signature item. Back in the day, as now a lot of barbecue places, I think Aaron Franklin sort of transitioned to where brisket is king now, and everything's sort of measured by those things first. But way back when, typically barbecue places made their own sausage. And then, of course, that became harder and harder if you didn't have the equipment and, of course, to be like state inspected. And so that would have transitioned to have to move to purveyors and other ways of not making it or having to source it from places like Benny Keith or things that are more fabricated. So, I like seeing Ernest and these guys bringing that craft back because, before back in when you were measured against other places, so it was always by the other sausage. It was never by the brisket. So that was something I don't know if people really remember, but that was the state of the game back in the day.
And by the way, did you bring some of your rub tonight?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
So you can purchase his rub here.
And it is on HEB shelves, just to let you know if we're getting here. So.
Nice.
But we're proud of those things. So
Let's move over to my new best friend, Mike Sutter. Mike, I'm going to toot his horn because he's not going to, but he's appeared on NPR's All Things Considered. He's been on ABC's To Tell the Truth. He's written for The Guardian, Bon Appetit, and The Wall Street Journal. So the man knows what he's talking about when it comes to food. And Mike, I want to ask you, when it comes to barbecue, what are you looking for? What makes it good to you?
Well, I think like so many things, we want something that is true to the original form, that's true to the idea of barbecue, not just for whatever is the most popular right now, whatever form that might take. I love that the three of you talked about sausage, because to me, sausage is one of the unifying factors, just in the sense of everything that goes into it. You get elements of the animal from snout to tail, but you always get the stories that go into that as well. And I've always seen smoke and sausage as unifying factors for food that connects all of us. For example, you were talking about the curry queso hot dog. I got some heat when I put together a San Antonio top 10 barbecue story for putting Curry Boys right there in the top 5. And I got a few ugly emails just talking about how in the hell can you call that barbecue? You're putting it in a bowl with curry, or you're putting Asian slaw on it or something like that. Well, I think it's, again, all about the sausage and the smoke, with sausage standing in for every kind of meat that they do. But that curry queso hot dog is one of the best things that you're going to eat at any barbecue restaurant. And I defy you to tell me that it's not true Texas barbecue. It's got that big smoke flavor. It's got that curry flavor, and it pops when you put it in your mouth. And the stories that go into sausage make me think of you, Ernest, because when I was at Burnt Bean just last week, we talked about Cinco, number 5. That's the sausage that you want to talk about at Burnt Bean. And the story that goes into that, it's called Cinco because it was batch number 5 of 5 batches made all the way through by his partner, business partner, David Kirkland, a long-suffering man who goes through these processes with Ernest where he has to R&D these things for 2 years. So they went through 5 batches of sausage before Ernest got it to a place where he was happy with it. Because if I remember right, you told me that your grandmother makes tamales.
Right. So my inspiration to becoming a chef was my grandmother had a restaurant for 35 years. It was the Tamale restaurant. She fed presidents and governors and everything. And her dream was for one of her children to take it over. No one did. And I was too little, so I always hung out there. I loved to be in the kitchens. I don't know whether it was because I was a chubby fat kid or just the art. And I just thought it was so beautiful. So coming up, just like how Adrian said, I think sausage is exactly what he says. I think there's great barbecue joint, there's good barbecue joints, and there's great barbecue joints, and the difference is one makes their sausage and one buys it. And that was one thing I wanted to do, because every barbecue joint in the state of Texas and whoever makes it around the country, it's actually their personal stamp. Everybody's going to have a different flavor and what they believe is a great sausage. And Adrian with his generational since 1959, and they produce some of the old school classic great sausage. And then you got Curry Boys, which has their own thing. It's a personal stamp, and I wanted that at our place because we make actually today, I just made 2,300 sausage links for the week. So
yeah, how many of the rest of us did that today?
So, I've been doing it since 2 this morning. So we do, we do a staple because every barbecue joint has an all beef and a jalapeno cheese, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we all have our own personalities, but I wanted something to pay tribute to my grandmother, and the El Cinco, which was the 5th batch, and it took me 2 years to make, and I would make it, and Dave would get mad because him and I would smoke it, and he wanted to try it. And I'm like, nope, throw it away. And then it finally came out right, and it's the purest form of what the burnt bean's all about, and in a casing. And then in the wintertime, what we do is we don't put it in a casing, we put it in a tamale husk, and we wrap it up and we smoke it. So you roll it out, and it's basically paying homage because a lot of the flavors have the tamale flavor of my grandmother. And that's like my parents, and I have family members that when they've tried, they get a little emotional because it triggers a memory of growing up with.
Well, he didn't tell you this, but he uses tamale masa as a binder in that sausage.
We use masa as a binder, so when you eat it,
that's the secret weapon,
right? So you're going to taste the organic, earthy flavors with the richness of the beef and the pork, and then the poblanos, and then the tail end, you taste the corn, just like a tamale. And don't dip it in ketchup, even though I like ketchup on my tamales. But it's really good.
Mike, you and I were talking the other day about the rise of Seguin as a barbecue destination. What's going on here?
Well, I wanted to pitch a story to my editor, and I'm still going to do that, even though I'm giving it away here, which is that the idea of Seguin as the new Lockhart. And I spent, last week, I spent one day in Seguin and one day in Lockhart. And the kind of concentration that you get of talent, of history, of innovation in barbecue, that's happening now in Seguin the way it happened in Lockhart starting 100 years ago. And between Burnt Bean Company, Davila's, and Schultz's Pit Room that has one of the craziest people in barbecue right now, a sausage maker named Bill Dumas. The things that are going on in Seguin right now are worth talking about as a destination unto themselves. And I think we could do that story. You want to work with me on that?
Sure.
Okay, good.
Does it involve eating some barbecue?
We ride it.
I'm all about that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Mike. How do you think San Antonio rates as a barbecue town overall?
When we first did our top 10 barbecue list with my late colleague at the Express News, Chuck Blount, God rest his soul, a smoker of the first degree and a barbecue competitor himself, we spun the wheel wide. We went outside 1604. San Antonio is a great wagon wheel, and 1604 is on the outside edge of that wheel. And we went everywhere beyond that, and we included in a San Antonio top 10, we included Burnt Bean, and we included Bee Daddies and Helotes, and we were kind of spinning out a little bit, right? But I think in the time that's passed since then, since that first list, San Antonio has developed into a destination spot of its own. And maybe we can let go of the idea, the romance, the fun, the joy of a barbecue road trip, and just stay within our wagon wheel of 1604, where we've got 2M Smokehouse, where we've got Curry Boys, where we've got Reese Brothers Barbecue, where we've got Two Brothers Barbecue from Jason Dady and his brother Jake, and everybody doing what they can to contribute to the San Antonio narrative. And I think that's just going to get better going forward as we get new places generating interest. The Terry Black's operation is going to be opening in San Antonio. We've already got Pinkerton's from Houston that's open just down the street. So I think we're going to be hearing more about San Antonio as a barbecue destination in the same way that we talk about Lockhart or Llano or Luling or Seguin.
Is there anyone that has any questions or comments that they'd like to make so far? Don't be shy. All you have to do is come down here, and everyone's going to stare at you. But oh, we have a contestant. Come on down. Hi. What is your name, sir?
My name is Jesse Lopez.
Hi, Jesse.
Just a question, any comment about that town up the road that makes barbecue? I think it's Austin. And will they be a comparable? There was a taco detente. Would they be a barbecue piece at some point?
Somebody take it.
Well, I'm from Austin, and before I took this job almost 8 years ago, I was a food writer in Austin, and I did 365 days of tacos in Austin. Then I did it in San Antonio. Same with barbecue, where I ate at 38 barbecue shops in the city limits of Austin, and now I've done that same thing in San Antonio. And I've got to tell you, it's slightly different conversation about barbecue than it is about tacos. There is no conversation about tacos, by the way. The whole difference there is handmade flour tortillas. Because in Austin, maybe I could find 5-10 places in a whole year of tacos that made their own tortillas. In San Antonio, I would have to work hard to find 10 places that used them from anywhere else but their own kitchen. So that's the difference there. And I think with barbecue, they got a head start on us for the new wave of barbecue. And so you've got places like, of course, Aaron Franklin. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stand in line ever again for 5 hours for barbecue, no matter how good it is. I don't want to stand in line for 5 hours unless it's for disaster relief. I better get a 50-pound bag of rice out of that deal. And I kind of feel like you can get 96% of the Franklin experience at a lot of other places that you don't have to wait in that kind of line. But there are plenty of good places there. I'm especially fond of La Barbecue that started from the Muller family originally and kind of moved up through John Muller and then his sister, Leanne, and the pitmaster, John Lewis, who has now opened his own dynasty in South Carolina. So it all, barbecue kind of had its renaissance moment in Austin, I would say 10, 15 years ago. And now we're getting that same energy happening in San Antonio and the nearby cities. That I think we should pay attention to, whether we think we are fashionable or not. Well, and something you've got to say about the evolution of Texas barbecue is that it's not just us that's recognized that. If you're all here, you're all interested. I understand that, but the nation has taken interest in San Antonio barbecue as well, because we have sitting with us now two gentlemen who have been recognized by the Oscars of food in this country, the James Beard Awards. Sean and his partners have been nominated twice for Best Chef Texas. Twice, I'm getting that right, yes?
I don't know how, but yeah.
And just so we get their names on the record too, that's Sean, and that's Andrew Ho and Andrew Samia. And then let's talk about this other gentleman over here who, along with his partner, David Kirkland, his business partner and fellow pitmaster, have been nominated 3 times for James Beard Awards, twice for Best Chef Texas, and most recently for Best Chef of the whole damn United States. Yes.
Well deserved too.
And that
well
that
deserved.
tells me of the rising status of barbecue. And now the big question is, now that Michelin is coming to Texas, let's see if they've got any stars for our barbecue stars.
Adrian, I've got a question for you. You, in a way, represent, I don't want to say old school, but a lot of the history of barbecue.
Is the gray showing that much? No.
So, what I want to throw out here is, how did we elevate the lowly, tough piece of meat called the brisket to what it is today? How did that happen? I mean, it was one of the crappiest pieces of the cow, tough, not that great. What has happened over the years?
I think, part of it was competition barbecue and taking their spin on it and creating all of these different things with it. And also the level of what it has to be. People have a great expectation of brisket now when they walk through those doors. They dissect it. It's lean, it's moist, it's against the grain and bark and all of these specifics. And so it's really become this thing that really you can take apart and make these different items with different. Our tacos are cut with a certain part of the brisket. Our nachos, our brisket grilled cheese, it's got to be carne guisada size, and there's all of these different ways you can spin it. It's such a versatile dish, and then it's so damn expensive. You have to create all of these different ways to use it. So, that I think is really taking brisket to a different level. And beyond that, I know we talk about, like, per se, TikTok, but it's more of the information age. It's the exchange of information and data and ideas that anybody in this room can Google a video with Ernest or these guys or me, and they can be doing what we're doing really quick. And so the exchange of information and ideas is not as good. But the exchange of information and ideas really just, it just has this, natural way of multiplying and like almost AI and all these ideas. And then you come up with this elevated thing that brisket is king now. There's no stopping it. We just want the prices to quit going so fucking high.
All right, I'm going to throw this out to our chefs. This is a wild card here, and we'll start down on the end with Ernest. If you are doing your own backyard barbecue for your family, what is the ultimate backyard barbecue that you would prepare?
Man, well, it's different than me with my kids and everything, but and it sounds cheesy, but those beef ribs that have like no meat on them at the store? I like to cook them and just gnaw on those things, like, and I get them super crispy to the point where they're burnt, but that little chicharrón that you get off of it, it's like so worth it. And you get no meat, but your teeth that's my favorite.
My dad's favorite.
But
my dad's favorite.
That, and another thing that the family likes is old school lake quarters. You can't go wrong with lake quarters. You get some Sweet Baby Ray's. Like I was just telling Mike here, we're a 3-time James Beard nominated restaurant. I have all these accolades, and then they asked me these guys are caught me at Rudy's the other day, and I love their barbecue sauce. So they're like, the guys that are cutting in line know who I am. They're like, holy crap, Ernest is here. And they're like, okay, what is he going to get? What are you doing here, first of all? You have your own place. I'm like, I just need 2 bottles of Rudy's. And they're like, what? I'm like, I like y'all's sauce. I love to use some stuff like that. And I love Rudy's barbecue sauce on lake quarters. I keep it simple at home. We don't go really fancy. I like lake quarters, those beef ribs, rice and beans. That's my go-to all the time.
Sean, same question for you. What's your backyard barbecue extravaganza?
Wow. I like to keep it Asian. For the listeners who are on the radio, I'm Asian. But whether it be like some version of Korean barbecue or some version of like Japanese barbecue, like I love Asian flavors. I still eat it like probably 7 days a week. Asian food, not barbecue. I would be I would not be alive probably if I ate it 7 days a week. But yeah, some variation of like Korean barbecue is something that I really love. Their marinades are incredible, and then I'm also just like a crawfish boil guy. I'd probably do like in lieu of classic kind of backyard barbecue, I would just throw a crawfish boil via Cajun style, of course. But yeah.
Adrian, same question. What's your Sunday barbecue best?
Well, I guess Ernest and I grew up in the same neighborhood because that was one of my dad's favorites. Those big beef ribs with the crappiest amount of meat on it, rice and beans, and the salsa and hamburgers, hot dogs, or a steak with A1 sauce that my dad would make. I hear that. I heard that. But again, late quarters and those simple things, rice and beans. That's why one of my favorite barbecue places in San Antonio is Pollos Asados. Because that's like the typical backyard San Antonio barbecue. And we don't get to go there very much because they're closed on Mondays. That's when we're closed. But Pollos Asados, like that's a San Antonio barbecue. That's what we would find in our house to this day.
Mike Sutter, you're a restaurant critic, so nobody cares what you cook. Just kidding.
And that's rightly so. Because,
I'm just kidding. What is your Sunday best barbecue?
Well, for me, if it's just me, it's going to be smoked sausage, piece of white bread and butter, pickles, mustard. Yeah, I'm done.
That's good.
Or I'm going to take a road trip to Driftwood and go to the Salt Lick, and be sure to bring my own Austin beer in a cooler, and have some of that, some of their barbecue sauce. That's the stuff I might stand in line for.
All right, let's talk about this topic that some people get kind of emotional about, and that is sauce. And some places don't offer sauce, some do. I'd like to get all of your thoughts on barbecue sauce. Do we need it? And if so, what makes a good sauce? Ernest?
Barbecue sauce is one of those things. Like I say, it's like the salt and pepper on the table. You just got to have it. It's there for you to use, but we preferably like you to try it first without it. And I talked to a couple of friends about a year ago. We were at this function, and the guys, the barbecue joints in Houston and Dallas, and they're just telling me how much barbecue sauce they're using. I go through 25 gallons and blah, blah, blah. And how about you, Ernest? How much you use? And I said, I think we make like 5. And they're like, oh, that's nothing. Y'all are weak. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't have to make so much if my food's good, right? And they're like, oh, wait. Yeah, you got a point. And that's one of the things that we take pride in. To each his own. I think everybody has their own way of. It's just like people like pepper with their ketchup and when they eat their fries, or they like ranch. We have it there. The best part, I cut every day on the line, and I see my people eating. And a lot of the new people, they're so used to being norm is they get their bread and they put their barbecue sauce and they put their pickles and their onions and they get the brisket and then they eat it. The best feeling in the world is when they take that bite and they take it all off and they scrape off that sauce. And they eat just the brisket because it's that good by itself. And that's when we know we're doing our job right, when we don't need to add any more condiments to our food. But, to the barbecue sauce, to each his own. I just said I like Rudy's, so I can't say no, you know what I mean? But, to each his own. I eat, like how he said, bread and butter pickles, slice of bread, slice of brisket. That's how I eat it. But with the sausage, I like to dip it in our mustard-based barbecue sauce. It's good.
Sean, what are your thoughts on sauce?
I love sauce. Half of our dish is a curry sauce. So, I agree with Ernest though. I think at the end of the day, if you as the guest say you like it with sauce, then I like it with sauce. I just genuinely want it to be an awesome experience for you. And so if you come in and you really feel like you want sauce, like we can have it with sauce. And again, I'm referring to curry and when it comes to our dish, but even if you're at a barbecue restaurant, classically, then yeah, I think it's just there's no manual on how you need to be eating this. It just needs to taste good to you. And if it tastes good to you, then like that's what we're here for. I think as chefs and people who work in restaurants and stuff. But me personally, I like a little bit of sauce.
Adrian?
I don't know how to even answer that. You know, it's again in Texas, it's sauce on the side, but we make plenty of sauce and sell plenty of sauce, and people eat our sauce just with the bread without the meat. So, you know, that's been one of those things that people.
What's wrong with those people?
You know, they're like, I love your
Just kidding.
sauce so much, I'd literally eat it just with the bread. So there's both sides of the spectrum, or try to convince somebody in like the Carolinas, you know, to put sauce on this side, and it's just dump, you know, it's cooked with it. So, you know, I guess it's just a matter of opinion and where you grew up and how, you know, how those things exist in your world. But I definitely agree with Ernest with that, and I agree with you. I love the curry sauce. So, yeah, I'm right in the middle.
Mike Sutter, you're a restaurant critic. No, I'm just
You
kidding.
keep telling me that.
Let's hear your thoughts on sauce.
Barbecue sauce has gotten a bad rap. And let's talk about why that is. It's because if you guys grew up like I did, brisket was something you cooked in the oven. Brisket was something that was to have all the fat slicked off of it with the back of the knife before it got to the table, because fat was bad for you. Nobody realized that at the time that the fat was where all the flavor was. Well, where did you get the flavor? The only place you could get the flavor on a brisket with all the fat slicked off of it was barbecue sauce. So we grew up thinking that that was brisket, that was barbecue, and that dry brisket plus that wet sauce was your barbecue experience. So it got a bad rap. But then we come along and we get the kinds of sauces that Ernest makes. We get the kind of sauce that you can get at Davila's. That the explosive flavor of that, used in moderation, not used to cook with, but to complement at the times that you need it, that you want it. Let's allow barbecue sauce to get over being traumatized, being abused, neglected, maligned, and just use it when we want it, and stop being so precious about it. I love these young old school guys who are like, oh, barbecue, God, barbecue sauce, that's like putting ketchup on steak. Shut up. You know, you're 27 years old.
But like to interject a little bit on that, like a good chimichurri can do wonders for brisket. Yeah, like that stuff is, you know, chimichurri works on everything, but like it really, you know, that's a great sauce to use on barbecue. Come out of that at the next backyard barbecue, be like, didn't see that one come in. Chimichurri from Argentina. Just tell them something like, just tell them TikTok, but still just tell them.
Oh, that brings up another subject, and we were having a quick discussion about this before we all came in here today, about promoting your restaurant and social media. How have you used social media to your advantage, Ernest?
You know, we love using social media, and we kind of keep it, you know, our whole philosophy is to keep it simple. We'll showcase something that we're doing new, or we'll just say, hey, we're around, and, you know, we just throw a cool platter or a cool something that we're making, and it entices them. But, you know, we don't have that many people like our customers that really go to social media, I guess, compared to there's a lot of other barbecue joints that their reels are just covered with tags, you know, they're tagged. Our customer base is different. We might get a tag. It's crazy. Even though we're packed, we'll get a tag. So we'll post and we'll roll with it, but it really hasn't really been influential with us, really. You know, we only have like 30,000 compared to some of the places that have 200,000. And you know, we post, you know, every day, but the social platform is really cool for the young people, but the array of people that come to the restaurant are a lot older, over 27, like you said, my friend.
Now, Sean, I was scrolling through Facebook today, and it was just like this giant flash of pink that went by, and it was your post from your new store. Which one is that?
In Stone Oak.
And you said you're not
Curry
a big
Boys.
fan of it's like a chore to you to do social media.
Whoa. I'm just kidding. No, Sean Wynn did say those words. I don't know if you know this now, listeners, but in 2024, if you decide to open a restaurant, you are now also a content creator. So we're all content creators as well, guys. That's kind of what it feels like sometimes, though. Not necessarily a chore, but it's like it is another really important aspect that you have to consider when you open up a space. Like, it's not just about the food anymore. It's about how do you get your vibe and your food and the idea of what you do out to everyone, so that they feel compelled enough to come in. And I think like it's a lot to handle sometimes. I think when you're trying to do all these things that these two real deal people are trying to do also, and on top of that, oh yeah, you have a cute idea for a reel. That's a lot, And so I do think that it is very helpful, though. And I think that there's certain moments of virality that can really help and benefit restaurants. And I think in general, it's important to kind of cue in on trying to figure out what your audience likes. Maybe for Ernest, he recognizes his demographic as people that may not necessarily be on Instagram all the time, and they just really hear about it because they read the newspaper or they watch the news and all the accolades and things. For us, I think our demographic is a little bit younger, under 27. And so, they spend a lot of time on social media. And so it's not a requirement, but like I feel compelled to come up with, I don't know, I'm like a clown sometimes. I'm just a clown.
You got to go see his new reel with the ribs as a reporter. Great. It is epic. I laughed, and I even posted it on my site because it was that good. It was really, really, really good. You got to go see it.
Like, I only do it because the other two Andrews refused to be honest. So someone has to do it. You know what I mean? But if it were up to me, I would not like to do it.
Adrian, have you used social media to promote your business?
Well, I could back it up. I guess 8 to 10 years when, some of the publicity hadn't come out yet. Social media had just become to come on as strong and to be a useful tool for businesses. But at the time, the person that was advising me said, if you don't use social media, you're leaving money on the table because it's free to use. And in a small market, in the Seguin market, we didn't have all these people coming and busting down our doors to come in our doors. It wasn't like that. I had to really strategize and figure out a way to get those eyes turned on us and to bring people in and get, wasn't burnt beans still wasn't there. So it wasn't like people were just going to drive. So I had to go get them, and so we really utilized social media to bring those people in. And the more I did, the more eyes were on us for other opportunities. So then I became the unofficial spokesperson and the per se face of the business on that camera. But also, you're also implementing the strategy because, my dad's not having it. He's like, come over here, cut this beef. What the are you doing? Like, get that camera out of my face and that sort of thing, which is understandable, But, hey, I came in because I saw him here. I came in because we read about it here. And the spread and those things are really a vital part of a business model. And again, I don't like doing it, I don't want to be on camera.
Says the only guy on this stage who has met Hoda Kotb and Savannah Guthrie in person.
Well, and again, yes, I was talking about the Today Show, which was a huge opportunity for us and for our brand. And again, going back to little tiny Seguin, we had been in business for over 50 years before any of these things came upon us. So a lot of the times I was looking down the road at all these other people getting the just being on the radar, per se. And so those were a chance to tell our story, for us to put ourselves on the radar and give people insight on the processes of how do we make the brisket. What are those old pits of like, look, my dad's mad at me. He doesn't want to be here right now. But people loved it, And so it gave people an insight and a reality and a realistic view of your business and what goes on. And people love that. People want to see the back end of it and what really goes on. And it's reality TV, whether like it or not. And, you can do it for like the likes and the clout, or you can make use of it and have a strategy and say, okay, I'm going to give people some insight, and they feel like they know you. So they walk in and they feel like they know me already, and they feel like they know my dad. And so those are really crucial things because they're connections, and food is a connection. So when you connect with the food and then the people with personality, you got to remember they're at our family table when they come in our restaurant. So making people feel like that once they come in, I saw you, I know you already. So it's definitely a big part of what we do now, like it or not.
Mike, your thoughts on how important it is for barbecue restaurants specifically to utilize social media, and is this a way for people to find places to eat that they weren't aware of?
Well, the answer to all of that is yes, but I think that also barbecue is one of the businesses that have benefited from more traditional media, and of course I say that as a newspaper guy, but a lot of the audience that is going to be seeking out barbecue on a repeating basis is going to be a group that also maybe consumes traditional news media. I think certainly we all have this idea that in order to draw a younger crowd, we're going to have Sean on TikTok eating hot dogs.
I'm not on TikTok.
you know, a lot of the if I can just really quick, a lot of the particularly the men that say I saw you are on TikTok. I'm always wondering where the middle-aged men or 40-year-old men are on TikTok. But my dad hears all the time. He's like, this guy said he's going to be on TikTok. Do more TikTok videos. People always talk about it, but we talk about the demographic being so young, and I think we all assume that they're all 27 and younger, but also those people also are on TikTok, also even our age.
Well, yeah, and I hate to break this to you, Sean, but you really do have to have a social media presence.
All right, I take it back. I'm gonna start a TikTok.
Well, not necessarily that, but that's how people find you if they don't already know. And sometimes word of mouth isn't enough, and you've got to fill those tables every day, every week, and wherever you can find your audience. And I love your idea that you're leaving money on the table because it's free to use. That doesn't mean it's free to get somebody who can generate content for you every day, so you don't have to. But it's a great place just to become acquainted if you don't already know.
Anyone else in the audience have any questions about barbecue for our panelists? Comments? Oh, here we go. Come on down. We're nearing the end of the evening. I'm just giving you the warning that it's almost over, and this has been so great. Thank you all so much. Yes, sir. Let's get your name and what's your question?
My name is Ron, and I just want to say I've been to Curry Boys. Man, that stuff is amazing.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
I'll be coming to your place soon.
Come
I
hungry.
got a question for Mr. Davila and then one for the critic. So,
Me first.
yeah. Well, because I used to go to your place about a dozen years ago,
Yes, sir.
and you guys were the only barbecue place, like anywhere in this area, that did lamb.
Yes, sir.
Do you guys still do that?
We do. That's one of
It's
the.
really good. So how did you guys start doing that?
So a great question for the room. I think lamb is not discussed enough, and even more so because I think my father, if anybody can shed more light on those things. But I would, from what I remember and learned, our customer base, because of our location and really who ate that type of barbecue was a lot of an African American sector of our demographic.
Okay.
And so if you kind of research that, the lamb and lamb ribs are more, I want to say, like the Kentucky area and Southeast United States. And so we particularly had it for our African American customers. And because it was, consumed by them, and primarily our Hispanic customer base didn't touch it. Our Anglo-American base didn't touch it.
Really?
But
It's
then you
really
have
good, man.
food television.
Okay.
Well,
My
food
people
television.
love you. Okay.
Apparently, it's really good.
It's really good.
So now everybody eats it, though. That's really across the board. It's really grown
Yeah.
in its popularity.
For the critic, My favorite barbecue place in town is Barbecue Station. Are you familiar with them? Yes. Their brisket is ridiculous. You ever talk about them?
Yes, in fact, they're one of the members of the top 10 club for the last rating that I did after the passing of my colleague Chuck Blount. And I love what the Peacock family has done with the place. But more than that, and I'm sorry, the gentleman's name is escaping me at the moment, but the pitmaster who's been holding it down there for a lot more years than even the Peacocks have owned the shop makes all the difference. And they were talking a little bit about beef ribs. The beef ribs at Barbecue Station, they're just these little guys. You know, we're accustomed now to buying these big dino ribs that'll knock off $60 all by themselves because they're $36 a pound and they weigh 2.5 pounds. You know, I'm no mathematician, but that adds up fast. But these little crispy beef ribs that they do at Barbecue Station, you would swear they dropped them in the fryer before they put them out. They just have that kind of crackle and crunch to them with that good beefy center. So yeah, I've given some thought to Barbecue Station. I'm a big fan.
Ron, thank you so much. And I want to thank all of our guests. Thank all of you for coming here tonight. Thank you to our sponsors, Frost and HEB, and our partner on this series, the City of San Antonio World Heritage Office. Thanks to Backwoods Barbecue for the delicious food beforehand. And thanks and a round of applause for our amazing panelists, Adrian Davila, Ernest Cervantes, Mike Sutter, and Sean Wynn. Thank you, guys.